Who's asleep amidst the trees? Bats on the swaying in the breeze. But one soul lies anxious, wide awake, fearing all manner of ghouls, hags, and wraiths. Fearing all manner of ghouls, hags, and wraiths. My dear Dolly, Polly, shut your eyes, lie still, lie silent, don't you chop and slice, you cut and dice, you eat you up whole, eat you whole.
It's been about 2 months since the release and very mixed reception of RE3 2020, and now we have a trailer for another Resident Evil game, Village, Resident Evil 8. That's right, the Vil in Village is a Roman numeral 8. How clever. Oh my god, we're getting another RE game so soon. I don't know whether or not to be happy or nervous. Spoilers, I'm pretty happy. So this trailer was revealed at the recent PS5 Future of Gaming event. And yeah, I really liked what I saw from this game. Following in the footsteps of RE7, Village returns the series to a first-person perspective. So I haven't really spoken a lot on my feelings towards RE7 in a video, but long story short, I actually really love that game and its first-person survival horror gameplay mechanics. Getting a follow-up to that in RE8 has me excited for sure. Even though this trailer was quick, it's absolutely packed with information. Since this isn't a remake of a classic game, this trailer analysis won't have many comparisons to previous entries, but there's still lots of interesting info to dissect. And with that being said, we have a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's talk about Resident Evil Village. Right out of the gate, we're presented with a very ominous statement. His story comes to a close. This is followed by a POV montage of someone walking through a dark forest. We also get to hear a female voice reciting a spooky bedtime story. It's Mia from RE7. We can also hear RE7's protagonist, Ethan, replying to her. This game takes place many years after the events of RE7, where Ethan and Mia have finally settled down together and continued their normal life. If I had to guess what's happening here, the two are reading bedtime stories to their child. We then cut to some in-game footage of Ethan and a random villager hiding out in a cabin. Both characters are pulled through the roof and floor by some ferocious, beastly-looking creatures just outside. What happens next is a very quick collection of visuals. We get to see a ton of beautiful, Gothic architecture in a very medieval-looking village, and oh my god, does this place look fantastic. I didn't realize just how much I wanted to see an RE Engine Victorian-era village until now. There's so much to take in, and I absolutely love all of the shots of this place and its people. We see a few characters throughout this trailer, like the older man Ethan is with at the start, a really cool-looking woman cradling a baby, and an older woman clad in black, giving off Marguerite Baker vibes. There's a guy that looks a lot like a bunch of other video game characters, notably Luis Serra, Arden Izunia, RE3R Carlos, and Daniel from Resistance. Whoever this Van Helsing Bloodborne hunter is, he looks super cheeky. Guys, just imagine if this village has its very own bio-hunter. Like a vampire hunter, but, you know, for bioweapons. I'm sorry. There's also a younger woman who shows up a couple of times. A lot of people think this is Claire Redfield. I think she's definitely a new character based on her outfit alone. She looks like a resident of this village. And finally, we see a man who is probably the young woman's father. I think the young woman is going to be a playable character. She has that aura about her, you know? And since Resident Evil games always have a section where you play as someone else, this lady sure does look like a main character. This game's cast seems quite extensive. It feels like whatever's going on in this town, there's still a bunch of normal people struggling to survive. I like RE8's tone a lot already. A few standouts to the imagery in the first half of the trailer are things like this ancient-looking door you see here. That definitely needs a few key items to open up. This is great because that would suggest actual puzzles being in this title. We also see what looks like another puzzle-like object featuring the Umbrella logo. I've read talk online that the surrounding crests might be family insignias representing the founding members of Umbrella, and I think that's a really cool idea. It feeds theories like maybe this village is where Umbrella started. Maybe it means this place is a forgotten testing ground for the company. Whatever it is, I'm very curious to see what it leads to. There's also this sigil of a mutated fetus within a circle with wings surrounding it. This sigil shows up a few times in the trailer, and in the special developer video, producers Peter Fabiano and Tsuyoshi Kanda talk about its significance in the story, stating that it's so important they debated even showing it in this trailer. As interesting as that is, I don't think any of us have the means to cracking this mystery given the amount of footage shown so far. My best guess is that this game overall will deal with childbirth and the creation of life. There are a few parallels with Mia and Ethan reading bedtime stories, the one woman cradling her baby, and this particular fetal thing being plastered all around the village. The fetus also has tentacle-like protrusions, so maybe it's related to Las Plagas, or maybe the Any Alpha parasite, or it could just be a brand new thing. I think it also vaguely looks like the Umbrella logo with how each item is carefully placed, creating 4 sectioned off areas. I was talking to a friend about this, and they explained to me that maybe this fetus sigil might actually be the inspiration for the Umbrella logo, basically meaning that the company may have been potentially based around this small European village's cult. While I find that interesting, it's really hard to talk about this right now. We'll have to wait for some more story details to drop to make solid cases and predictions. The second half of the trailer shows off some incredible stuff. Firstly, we see a spooky witch character in the middle of the village, accompanied by a pitch-black goat. This character looks like she was plucked straight out of medieval times. I wonder if she'll be a boss fight, or someone that might help Ethan on his journey. I don't think we've gotten any concrete info on hallucinations being present in this game, but Ethan did start experiencing them at the very end of RE7 when battling Evelyn. I think a lot of what's happening in this title will relate to mind games, and I can see this witch character being a big part of that. The next batch of things presented are my favorite things in this trailer. Guys, we're getting a new mansion-like environment. I assume this is the interior of the local village's castle. Since RE7, exploring a Gothic mansion is exactly what I've wanted to see on the RE engine. Like, look at this place. The remake vibes are super strong here. This looks like a modern-day pre-rendered background, but we're actually going to explore it in full. I'm so hyped for this. This place looks so cool, but its inhabitants are even cooler. Guys, there are vampire ladies in this game. I can't believe it. So far, this title is showing me everything I love about Gothic horror. We get to see a very brief clip of the main vampire babe drinking Ethan's blood straight from the wrist. I'm sure we'll get some kind of explanation about viruses or bioorganic terror causing whatever this condition is, but straight up it looks like vampirism, and I'm totally here for it. Is it just me, or are the Goon Squad vampires all the same person? It looks like they have the same face model to me. I think they might, and maybe that means they're triplets. Obviously, I'm just throwing out ideas, but I think that's what's happening with these chicks. Like, we're about to go toe-to-toe with a vampire family. Where's Alucard hiding? It also looks like they're conjuring up some kind of insect swarm before surrounding Ethan. I think this might be a hallucination. Like, this castle has something in its air. Very Resident Evil 3.5, if you know what I mean. One fan theory that's been circulating is the return of Alex Wesker from Revelations 2. And I have to say, this theory is pretty compelling. So, long story short, Alex Wesker's goal in Rev 2 was to imprint her consciousness on a small girl named Natalia. Playing through the main game, you're led to believe that Alex failed in her experiment. But finishing the game and seeing the true ending shows us that Natalia is in fact becoming Alex Wesker. This was a pretty huge plot point that was weirdly never touched on ever again after Rev 2 came out. This can possibly be what's happening in this game with this character. She does bear a striking resemblance to Alex Wesker, but I'm not sure if the age of this woman lines up with how old Natalia would be at this point. It's also very peculiar that Alex Wesker is a playable mastermind in Resident Evil Resistance. Like, she got a photo-scanned model and everything. Very interesting. I think it'd be really cool if Capcom finally gave us a conclusion to this very important loose plot thread to the series. It would also give a certain ex-STARS member a huge goal to accomplish in Resident Evil 8. More on this later. One of the last clip montages I want to dissect before we get to the very shocking finale of this trailer is all of the very quick beast-human footage. It looks like one of the common enemy types are these beast-like individuals. They're not quite werewolves yet, but I can totally see them becoming full-blooded werewolves as the game progresses. If you look carefully in this shot, we can see this particular beast person sporting a pair of ballistics. I guess there's no sex discrimination here. This is super interesting because we're getting these enemies in different genders. It'll be cool to see the people of the village mutate into these creatures before our eyes during gameplay. You can definitely tell a lot of depressing stories with this. I can't wait to see how these monsters act during gameplay. It seems like this large executioner man is going to be a boss, if not mini-boss. This creature totally reminds me of the RE5 executioner from this one shot. There are also a few beast humans scurrying around nearby as the giant man jumps down. It looks like all of these guys are on the same team. Okay, so we have people turning into werewolves, vampire babes, a witch, a castle, and a spooky snowy village. I guess Nemi's second form in RE3R reminded me a lot of the blood-starved beast. I think Capcom wants to make the next Bloodborne. That or a new Castlevania. Resident-vania? Okay, let's move on to the final piece of this trailer that's baffled many fans across the internet.
Chris? Sorry, Ethan. Why?
First up, what the hell, man? You feeling alright? What did Mia do to you? Secondly, oh my god, Chris Redfield is back. He actually looks his age for where we are in the timeline. I'm glad the devs restored Chris's RE6/Vendetta look for this game. It's so much better than his 7 look. But yeah, what the hell is going on? In the special developer video, we learn that Chris is the catalyst to Ethan's new nightmare, seemingly killing Mia and probably abducting Ethan and dumping him in this village. But why? I do want to say very quickly, if Mia still has her mold infection from 7, I think she might be okay surviving a few gunshots. I mean, the amount of ammo expended on this small woman makes way more sense when you remember that Ethan basically pumped about 15 rounds into her face in the previous game. I think she'll be fine. Does the quote at the start of the trailer refer to Chris? His story comes to a close. Does this mean Ethan is going to have to kill my beloved Chris Redfield? I really hope not. He's the other character that started this entire series. I don't understand why he'd go rogue all of a sudden. Look at the guys he's with. They don't seem like BSAA soldiers. They look like hired goons, like mercenaries of some kind. Maybe working with Umbrella is actually making Chris evil? I've been with this character since the beginning. At no point did he ever become evil. He's given up on himself, but he's always come back stronger, you know? Of course, there are a ton of fan theories about this. Some are just off the wall, but you know, Resident Evil is a crazy world. We've literally had clones in the past. And it was really stupid, but it might be a possibility for this universe. There are a lot of theories out there, and I don't want to bore you with potentially wrong information, but I will give you my personal take on what I think Chris is up to. If I had to theorize about Chris's actions in this game, I think he has a legitimate reason for doing what he's doing, especially if it's going to lead to finding a potentially revived Alex Wesker. This man has been fighting bioterrorism and the Wesker name his entire adult life. He's got to put a stop to it wherever it shows up. Maybe his actions will end up being a little extreme and come off as cold-blooded, and in some cases very evil, but I think he'll come out on the right side in the end. I like this theory a lot. Now, do I think this will actually happen? Maybe, but I have been very wrong in my Resident Evil predictions in the past. Sorry, we're just theory crafting at this point and we should totally move on, but that's what I think might happen. Final thing I want to say is that Chris is totally voiced by Jeff Shine, the voice and motion capture actor for Carlos in RE3R. Chris sounds way too familiar for this not to be Jeff.
Sorry, Ethan.
Tyrell, do you copy? Jill's been infected. I'm taking her to the hospital. Maybe Dr. Bard can save her.
So that's the full trailer. We got to see a ton of what's happening in this game's setting, and a little bit of what's going on in the story. We barely got any gameplay footage, but we did get a small taste in the special developer video. And yeah, what's presented here is very minimal, but gives you a basic idea of how the game will play. Village is a next-gen survival horror game that will apparently be a little more action-oriented than prior Resident Evil titles. I have a feeling that it probably won't be that much more action-focused than RE7. I think the beast-like enemies will prove to be a faster threat than 7's shambling molded creatures, but I have a feeling that might be the only real difference with this game. I imagine these beast enemies being hunter equivalents, and if they're normal enemies, I can see quicker thinking and faster reflexes coming off as more action-oriented. But yeah, time will tell. Other than that piece of info, we get to see a very short clip of Ethan walking through the main hall of the castle's mansion-like interior. And of course, it looks beautiful. The inventory gives me big RE4 vibes with what looks like that game's Tetris-style rearranging feature. Ethan's handgun also has 2 materia slots. I have a feeling these slots might be for weapon upgrades, like you can attach a silencer or a scope to your gun. There's also a currency icon in the top right corner suggesting a merchant will be in this game. I hope it's the same guy, but I have a feeling it might be this guy. Hey, or maybe the witch. It's interesting to think about this game having currency. Purchasing items and weapon upgrades comes to mind, but I can only really see including a currency system in a larger game. All of the recent RE titles were fairly short and straightforward, much like the classic games. RE4 and 5 are longer games that saw you visiting a lot of different locations. The amount of content in those games meant you'd be fighting way more enemies, finding a plethora of items and sellable treasures. In a longer game, upgrades and weapon customization are important things for making the gameplay experience satisfying the whole way through. In a long game, it's super important to make your character feel like they're getting better as you play. I hope we get a lengthy game out of Village, especially since the reception around RE3R was super mixed, based on that game not having as much content compared to other RE titles. Now that I think about it, I do wonder if Village will be a much grander adventure, unlike the smaller experiences of 7, 2R, and 3R. It's got me really wanting to see an extended gameplay trailer. If possible, I don't want enemies to drop money in items like in RE4 and 5. To me, that always killed the immersion a bit, making those games feel more arcadey. By the way, the currency is likely Romanian, obviously meaning this game will take place in Romania. And other than what we've seen so far, I'm sure the game will feature things from RE7, like that title's crafting system and the extremely useful guarding mechanic. Let's hope Ethan will still be able to cancel his heals and reloads with a well-placed guard. There's not much else to talk about besides the game looking like it'll be a mix of Remake, RE4, and 7, which sounds pretty cool if you ask me. Giving those very fun RE4 gameplay mechanics a more grounded framework and story sounds amazing. So something that worries me about this game and the future of the series, this has nothing to do with the content of Village, is that it seems like Resident Evil is becoming an annual franchise. I really don't want to see the series lose steam and do poorly financially. I think what Village is doing is great for mixing up the standard RE formula a bit, but it also feels a little too soon, I guess. We literally just got a Resident Evil game 2 months ago, and this one comes out next year. Also, the title is kind of weird. The word Village is front and center, and the words Resident Evil are the subtitle. Visually seeing Resident Evil is what sells. I don't know, we'll see what happens. It'll probably do fine. To wrap up this video, I'll say I am extremely excited for this game. It looks like a breath of fresh air in all the right ways, while paying respect to the look and feel of classic Gothic Resident Evil. I can't wait to see more on Village's gameplay in the near future and get a better understanding on how the story is going to play out. Capcom, please don't do Chris dirty. He doesn't deserve it. If he has to die, make this character go out in a blaze of glory that is not only meaningful, but badass. He's been through a lot, and if this title is truly the end of his story, let him retire peacefully. Well, I guess we'll find out what happens soon when RE8 drops next year. Wait a minute. Resident Evil Village. R-Evil? R-E-V-I-L-L. Oh my god. Rev 3? Revelations 3? No, it can't be. Or maybe. Hey there everyone, sorry for being quiet on here for the past month. It's been an interesting few weeks for a variety of reasons. I also had a case of severe writer's block in that month-long span. Yeah, it really sucked. RE8 getting announced kind of energized me, and I got to writing again. I hope you guys like this video and consider supporting my channel. Subscribing and checking out my Patreon goes a long way, which you can find a link to down below. Please stay safe and healthy in these crazy ass times. I will see you all very soon in my next retrospective video. It's gonna be really fun. Okay, guys. Later.